We put up our drone for this view of Waynesville, the epicenter of South Georgia's apocalypse. Houses, cars, anything in the path of the flames, gone. Lisa Grogg told us her loss.
Everything, which might not be a lot to some, but it meant a lot to us.
This is Grogg's uninsured house. There's nothing left.
I made it home to get my dogs as the fireman was putting the water hose up to my house and telling me I had to leave.
Rural South Georgia is battling a pair of wildfires roughly 65 miles apart. Miraculously, no lives lost. But Brantley County's fire has incinerated more than 80 structures.
Our biggest worry is always life. You know, people having enough time to evacuate you.
These fires have been so intense, smoke hovered over downtown Atlanta, 260 miles away. Southeastern Georgia has seen just 11 inches of rain since last September. That's almost 15 inches below normal, turning nature into kindling. Lisa Grogg broke down in tears when she finally returned to her charred home.
Every day we'd get up and grumble about, I know y'all probably do it too, God, I got to go to work, and I just want to go back to that life, normal.
The number of homes burned to the ground here is now up to 90. The winds here remain so dangerous because they're so unpredictable. What is more clear here is the weather forecast. No chance of significant rain here for days.
Georgia kicked out every black resident from this county in 1912, and it's still almost all white today. Forsyth County, just north of Atlanta. In 1912, over 1,000 black people lived there, farmers, business owners, families who'd been there for generations. Then September 1912 happened. A white woman was attacked. 2 black teenagers were accused. Rob Edwards, age 16, Oscar Daniel, age 18. They were arrested, tried, convicted in one day. On October 25, 1912, they were hanged in front of 5,000 people in Cumming, the county seat. But that wasn't enough. White mobs formed. They called themselves Night Riders. They went farm to farm, house to house, burning churches, burning homes, threatening families. The message was clear: leave or die. Within 4 months, 98% of Forsyth County's black population was gone. Over 1,000 people forced out, land abandoned, businesses left behind. Forsyth became a sundown town. Black people couldn't be there after dark, not for decades. In 1987, civil rights marchers tried to walk through Forsyth. They were met with Confederate flags and rocks. Today, Forsyth County is one of the wealthiest counties in Georgia, and it's still over 95% white. The people were erased, but the history is still there. Drop your county in the comments. Follow for the Georgia stories that make people uncomfortable.
We didn't know anything about black folks because we never really saw them.
You just did not go to Forsyth County. In my mind, the black people lived somewhere else. I thought it was that way everywhere.
People of color crossed the county line at risk of their lives. And I remember being in the back of a pickup truck in my baseball uniform and walking along behind us. The next group in the parade were Klansmen.
In the Jim Crow era, Forsyth County, Georgia was a sundown county, a whites-only zone where it was either illegal or unsafe for black people to be there after dark. But what made Forsyth unique is that it stayed that way for 70 years, well into the 1980s.
In the mid-1800s, during Reconstruction, Forsyth was a mixed county where black people made considerable strides. By 1910, 10% of the population was black, with black families owning 200 to 300 acres of property individually. 2 years later, in the midst of the Jim Crow era, an anti-black campaign led 2 neighboring counties to expel its black populations, inspiring Forsyth to do the same. The catalyst was the alleged rape and murder of a white woman by 3 black men in the town of Cumming.
There's incredibly strong evidence to suggest that Rob Edwards was simply picked up as the nearest black man in the area when her body was found. And that the trial of these 2 teenagers, Ernest Knox and Oscar Daniel, they were 16 and 18 cousins. Very strong evidence that whatever else, they didn't get anything we would call close to justice.
These people in this mob beat down the door, and they had weapons, they had crowbars, they had all sorts of things. They went to where the jail cell was. They shot Rob Edwards repeatedly, beat him with a crowbar, took his body and dragged it behind a wagon, and according to the most common stories, they rode around and around the courthouse square, and everybody had target practice with this corpse. And then they strung up his body across the street and about a half a block away.
But this is a lynching participated in by like a lot of the community. Hundreds of people took part in it. When they were hung, the entire county turned their hangings into a kind of festival day. They all brought blankets and picnic baskets and sat on a hill overlooking the gallows and cheered and celebrated this hanging. It feels like a legal lynching in the case of Knox and Daniel, and certainly in the case of Rob Edwards, you know, a very horrific lynching on the public square.
A black man would open his front door in the morning and he would see a bundle of sticks tied with string just laying on his front doorstep, and that was all it took, because that was saying, next time it'll be dynamite. There were 48 families who were documented landowners in Forsyth County at that time, black documented landowners at that time.
In a matter of days, 1,100 black people were displaced, eclipsing any wealth and progress they'd made during Reconstruction.
They had to leave Forsyth County, regardless of what you had, what you owned, you had to leave.
Elon Osby is a descendant of one of those families. Her grandfather owned somewhere between 60 and 80 acres of land in Forsyth.
I have a home here that's on an acre of land almost, and you're really proud of that, you know, and to think that my grandfather had 80-something acres, it's staggering. It hurts, it's sad, and I can't imagine what my grandfather must have been feeling. Land was more important than money in the bank, and I'm sure that he was very proud of himself as a Negro man, you know, to have property like that.
Forsyth remained an all-white county for over 70 years, and that pattern of violence against black people continued.
Every decade I looked into, there was another episode of violence. There was another outbreak of really shocking bigotry. Miguel Marcelli was an Atlanta firefighter who came to Lake Lanier in 1980, and he and his girlfriend were both of them black, were at a company picnic on Lake Lanier, and Miguel Marcelli got shot in the head.
We go around and we try to find the black cemeteries.
There are a lot of people buried in Forsyth County that are only marked with fieldstones. People were buried and their family have never been able to come back and visit their graves and see if their grave was being tended, or even if somebody built a house on top of it.
So there are graves in people's backyards, basically?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in some cases, they are black cemeteries that
Yes.
have been wiped out, basically.
Abandoned. Yeah. Yeah.
The world watched as peaceful protesters of all races got stoned and attacked by a white mob in a clash with the Klan while marching for integration in Forsyth.
To see that hatred firsthand and to know that this is still happening, that these people still feel this way, it was just very scary to me. And still, it just pounded it home even more. You don't go there. There's nothing in Forsyth County for you.
Today, Forsyth County is one of the wealthiest counties in the country. It's over 75% white and 4% black.
That land is some of the most valuable real estate in metropolitan Atlanta. Being deprived of the use value of that land for 100 years and being deprived of its current value when many of these families either sold under duress or, in some cases probably sold at gunpoint, or simply it was unsafe for them to return to the county. And so they lost their land through really unjust means. This kind of land theft, this kind of, whether through legal or illegal means, is depriving of intergenerational wealth to Black families.
Does it bother you that Forsyth is now one of the wealthiest counties in Georgia and the country?
When I first heard that several years ago, it bothered me. There are some things that I purposely don't think about too much, and this is not a happy story. It just does not end up happily.
The speedy expulsion of Forsyth's Black population also created land issues for the deceased.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back from wherever you're watching me from. Now, we've seen that there is a Sundown town which is facing its own reckoning right now. It seems like these cities are now paying for their sins, and whatever thing they did to Blacks, it seems that they are paying dearly for whatever thing they did to people of color at large. We see that Brandley County did not just suddenly become the headline because of the wildfire, but we know that this fire has just forced people to look deeper into what that city was, and now we've seen that it has drawn a lot of attention towards itself. Let's get to see the rest of the clip, and I'll be back with more commentary. Drop your thoughts down below. What do you think? Are they paying for their sins? Are they paying for what they did to Black Americans and people of color? Let us know in the comments down below, and if you have not subscribed to our channel, support us by subscribing right now.
Let's tell the truth about sundown towns, not just what they are, but how they work, how the government helps them, and how entire generations of Black families have learned to survive them. Because this wasn't just local hate, it was policy, and it was everywhere. Sundown towns were places where Black people were told in no uncertain terms, don't be here after dark. Signs at the city limits would warn you, don't let the sun set on you in this town. And it wasn't just a threat, it was enforced. Police would arrest you, neighbors would form mobs. People were run out of town, beaten, and even lynched. And this wasn't just limited to Mississippi or Alabama. We're talking Illinois, Indiana, California, Oregon. Hundreds, likely thousands of these towns all across America. Places that made being Black after sunset a crime in itself. But here's what they don't teach you. This wasn't just angry white neighbors putting up signs. It wasn't just local mobs. The federal government helped to build and maintain these all-white spaces. During the 1930s and 40s, the Homeowners Loan Corporation, they made maps that graded neighborhoods. If Black people lived there, they colored it red, called it hazardous, no loans, no investments. That's redlining. And it locked people in, made sure that Black families couldn't buy homes or build wealth. But they didn't stop there, of course. The Federal Housing Administration required racial covenants and new suburban developments. They demanded that the developers guarantee that those homes would only be sold to white buyers if they wanted those cheap, federally insured loans. It wasn't a suggestion, it was policy. Taxpayer money literally underwriting segregation. White families got the homes, the loans, the equity. Black families got shut out. And if they tried to move in, they risked violence. Because sundown towns didn't just say, don't live here. They said, don't even pass through. And this is where the Green Book comes in. Black travelers needed an entire guide just to stay alive on the road. Victor Green started publishing it in the 1930s because he knew the danger. He listed places where Black people could safely eat, sleep, and buy gas. Places that wouldn't turn them away or call the cops. Or worse, because entire counties could be sundown. A Black family driving across country couldn't assume that they'd be safe anywhere after dark. They planned routes around hate. They planned around survival. That wasn't ancient history. Our parents and grandparents lived that. So don't let anyone ever tell you that segregation was a Southern thing, or that it was just mean neighbors putting up signs. It was written into federal policy, enforced by police. It was mapped by the government and funded by our tax dollars. And when Black families found ways to survive it, they had to publish a whole book just to make it through the country safely. That's the truth. That's the history they try to sanitize. But it's ours to tell. Because if we don't say it out loud, they'll just keep pretending that it never happened. And we're not here to let them forget.
So, this is a quick story time on how I got racially profiled just driving. And mind you, this happened in Georgia. the state where the most racially motivated things happen to me at. It's like crazy. So I'm driving through this town with my child's mother. Mind you, I don't even remember the name of this town. I believe it was past Macon, Georgia. And if you live in Georgia, then you know the further you go out, the more racist it gets. And you know, it was so ironic, driving through this town, it gave you like this eerie feeling. Like you looking around and it just looks like it just existed in plantation days and it's still in those times. Like it's just this eerie vibe and feeling about it. If you know, then you know. You know exactly what I'm talking about. To put it simple for y'all, this town looked like they pretty much still have slaves. It looked like they still were lynching people. Like that's how the town looked, and that's the feeling, that's the vibe that it gave you. So me seeing all this and paying attention to my surroundings and having an experience that I have experienced throughout my life, I'm looking around and I'm seeing them, all these cars and all these people look like they just from the 1970s or some shit, like 1980s. Mind you, we're in a 2016 BMW, so the car kind of stands out at this time, and this happened in like 2020, if I'm not mistaken. So with this car that we're driving, we pretty much stick out like a sore thumb. Now that I'm realizing it, it's like, and we got tinted windows. You can't really see through it. Like the tint is great, tint is immaculate. So I'm like, damn. I had a feeling that we finna get profiled. I just had that feeling in my chest, and lo and behold, I was right. So the lights flick off. Woo, woo, woo. We get pulled over, and I can't even remember the BS excuse that he gave for why he pulled us over. But the fact that I can't even remember, that's how I know it was BS. But I already knew in the back of my head that something was going to happen like this. So I was already in that mindset to just chill and take it calm and, you know, understand that you're a black man and they want you to react a certain way so they can treat you a certain way. But I'm not going to give them that chance and that opportunity. And lo and behold, ironic, right? It's kind of similar to the situation that I just posted, you know, where I was going on this job and it went viral and the woman was saying I smelled of smoke, right? That's pretty much what they used. You know what I mean? That is the saying that they used to say, hey, it kind of smells like smoke in the car, that, this, that, and third, can we search it? I feel like that's a racially motivated saying because they feel like, or they prejudiciously think that all black people smoke. So they use that as a way to control you or weaponize and make you look like you're less than. And it's crazy. Mind you, there was no smoking going on. It was just a car ride, I believe, to a family function that we was going to. We wasn't even smoking, we were just chilling, driving. So in my head, I'm already knowing what's going on, the type of town that we in, the car that we driving. You know, I'm black, I got tattoos, I got this, that, and the third. I just know how it goes. So me, I'm just cooperating at this point. I'm like, listen, man, nobody was smoking in the car. Wasn't no smoking going on. But you can check if you want to. And he's just pretty much insinuating that, yeah, I'm just going to check. I'm just going to call back up and this, that, and third. I'm telling him, bro, you're going to waste your time calling back up. These people going to look at you like you crazy. But I know you're going to do it anyway because you're going to think I'm lying because of your experience or your prejudice. So go ahead, knock yourself out. And I'm sorry it took this long to get to the highlight of the story, but I'm going to kind of speed it up a little bit because this video is kind of long, right? As he's searching the car and backup is there, and mind you, I'm sitting on the hood of the car with my child's mother. We watching them search the car, knowing there's nothing in there. There's a car that drives past and literally says, S-word them. I can't say it because this is TikTok. S them. Like, bang, bang. I'm like, what? And the cops just look, they just kind of shrug it off like, I'm like, yo, this is insane. I ain't never seen or been through nothing like this in my life. Like, they literally just damn near KKK'd us. Like, just out in the open, in public. Like, yo, this is insane. I'm saying this to say that, bro, racism is very much still alive. People will be prejudiced towards you. They will judge you. They will automatically have a preconceived notion about you because of the color of your skin alone, because of how you look, because of the history of people, because of whatever their naive ignorance and lack of experience tells them about black people. They put us all in the same box. So be aware of that and work on yourself so you don't react to the bullshit, because we come from a background of slaves. So it's easy to react and get angry and get out your body once, but you got to work on that. And that's what I practiced on. You feel me? That's why that last video was executed the way it was, because the old me definitely would have spazzed out and probably would have went to jail. Behind getting tried and tested like that, I would have probably spazzed out and went to jail, but I had to work on myself. This is a calling for all black people. Realize that racism is still alive, and use your brain. Be smart, be calculated, man. That's all.
That's her mama's home right there. And that's Lucky and them's house right there.
Lucky, unfortunately, lost her home and was able to get her dogs out. Lucky, briefly, can you just tell me this video that we're going to look at? What am I seeing here?
Well, all I know is that from yesterday, we gathered our animals, and I know the good Lord talked to me and said, get your animals and go home somewhere. And that's what we did. We grabbed our animals and ran. My heart felt like it dropped.
You just felt like God was like,
yeah,
let's move.
Let's go. That's it.
And then you got in and out.
I got in and out, and so look at me now. I'm here. I am safe. I am alive.
What's difficult about Lucky's situation, too, is if you look at the video, there are other homes that are still standing, and I think that was part of the thing that's hard to deal with there.
Yes, sir.
Can you kind of take me through that?
Well, as of right now, when we were there yesterday, there was a couple houses standing, but I'm thinking 99% of the homes on Brushy Creek and Gallberry has been destroyed.
Golly. Well, Lucky, fortunately, has someone to stay with, but we're going to be out here in Brantley County. We appreciate you taking time with us.
Thank you.
I'm sorry for what you're dealing with.
Yes, sir.
And we know there's been dozens of homes lost out here, but we'll be out here. News for Jackson. We'll have some updates this evening.
Okay, y'all, the situation in Georgia is getting out of control, and it's getting worse fast. Let's talk about it. Right now, the Highway 82 fire in Brantley County has exploded over 13,000 acres and is barely contained. Officials are now issuing evacuation orders across multiple areas, with some residents being told to leave immediately. Over 100 homes have already been destroyed around southeast Georgia area, making this one of the worst wildfires the state has ever seen. And it's not just one fire. Another fire in Clinch County has burnt over 32,000 acres. That's adding even more pressure on these emergency crews. On top of that, there is a mandatory curfew that's put in place, and officials are warning that smoke and low visibility could shut down major highways at any moment. A firefighter has already lost his life battling these flames, and there are thousands of people still in these areas that could be affected. Officials are telling residents to prepare to evacuate at any times because conditions are changing fast. If you are anywhere near Brantley, Glenn, or Wayne County, do not ignore these warnings, and I'm praying for you. Peace. Stay safe.
You mean to tell me that just a few weeks ago, the same county in Georgia, their citizens fought against having a data center built there? And now in the same county, it is basically almost gone. I don't want to say too much, but I'll put the screenshots up above. But look what's going on. If y'all still trusting what we voted for and what we voted to have changed, quote unquote changed, and this shit's happening, I mean, just imagine how much worse it's going to get.
What used to be a home is now just this. Ash, debris, even cars left behind completely destroyed. And this is the reality for so many families out here right now. They had minutes to leave, grabbing what they could, their pets, their loved ones, and hoping they'd be able to come back to a home. I've been speaking with many families here in the community, and what they keep telling me is they've lost everything, but they haven't lost each other. And right now, that's what's getting them through this.
Now, we've seen that houses has been charred. We see that trees have been blackened, and also there is a lot of smoke which is choking in the sky. But we know that underneath the whole city, the whole kind of mess which is happening right now, there is something which is older and it is already sitting in the ground. We know that history never left. We know that that whole thing was just buried into routine and denial. But history has a way of reminding itself. Now we see that this was a sundown town, and this whole thing was in practice because we saw that this is a place where black people knew the rules without being told what to do, because they knew that whenever the sun went down and you are in that city, you might face a lot of harm, danger, and your life might be at risk. And we know that before the dark comes, actually these people were supposed to be gone, and we know that these people were not supposed to settle, were not supposed to build, and also they did not belong in that land. And that was not something which came with a distance past either, but it was shaped in who got to stay in that land, who was supposed to leave before the sun goes down, and who was never even welcomed and tried to even come back, and that whole thing. And we see that now that whole land is burning, and we see that thousands of acres are gone. We see that homes have been reduced into flames and ashes, and we see that families are standing outside, and they are standing at what used to be a place where they lived, a place where they called home. And we know that the kind of reaction which is coming is now predictable, because these people have been a lot of shock, they are in disbelief, they are grieving, and above it all, they're confused, and people are asking something of how could that have happened. But the whole point is that we know that land carries a lot of memory. Land gets to have something which is not this is not something which is a historical fairy tale sense, but it is in how patterns have been made, and also in decisions which have been repeated over and over for generations right now. And we know that in systems that were rewarded, that actually got to reward some people and pushed others out, you don't get to build exclusion into place for decades and then expect it to just disappear because time has passed. We know time heals everything, but in this case we see that history gets to be kept and preserved because land gets to carry a lot of memories. And what you are seeing right now is distraction, and the kind of distraction happening here is very real. It is physical loss, and we see that people are not even sugarcoating it. People are suffering, but the kind of framing matters, because this is not just about trees catching fire, but about what that land gets to represent long before the flames. We know that the county did not just exclude black residents, it forced it. It enforced the whole thing through intimidation, through violence, and also through silence. And when those systems are now not confronted, they actually now don't die. What they do is that they grow and they become so quieter. So when we see that someone calls this whole thing as historical justice or spiritual retribution, then it gets to hit a nerve, because that whole thing sounds very harsh. It sounds like someone is celebrating destruction, but when you look closer, it's not celebration, it is recognition, because we see that people are recognizing that the same ground that was worked on by enslaved people is now turning into ashes. And we see that that kind of recognition of a place which was built on forced labor and racial exclusion are not immune to collapse. At some point, they get to collapse. And we see that that kind of recognition, that history does not stay neatly in textbooks, because you know that these people get to erase and also get to dilute the history. So still, the whole thing is very clear, because we know that this wildfire is not just some sort of a moral judge. It does not choose who it targets. based on the past scenes, but we see that fire spreads based on heat, wind, and also the fuel and whatever circumstances which caused the fire. And that's the reality. But people have interpreted it through the lens that they get to understand better, the one which they think that this county is paying for the sins which they committed to black people. And in this case, the interpretation is not blunt, because you know that a town that once pushed people out is now facing loss and it cannot control it. And we know that this whole thing is not ironical, it is not um, also poetic irony, but it is something which is so structural, because that kind of sense of safety that allowed exclusion to exist in that kind of space, where we see that there is the land rules and also who got to be in that time before the sun goes down. Now that whole narrative gets shattered whenever nature steps in, and suddenly there is something which comes, and we see that control disappears, and we see that now people are being so vulnerable, and the land does not care about who owns it. We see now they are receiving punishment because they sent away black people from that town. You know, they did want them to be there. So if there was if there was race inclusion, these people could have not suffered alone. There could have been diversity in those who partake in the suffering. But we see that they were left alone for the land and the city. And now, when these kind of calamities come, now they're the ones who are paying dearly because they are purely white there, and they get to pay for it. So there is also a consequence for whatever thing they did. And we know that the bigger issue is not whether this fire is justice, it is why the past itself is so present, and that people even frame it this way. And why we know that the history of Sundown Town still echoes loud enough, and it gets to shape how disasters are understood. And by that, we come to understand that these people are so perturbed and they don't know what to do anymore, because we know that whatever thing you do, the Bible even tells us to be clear that let's do whatever thing we want us to be done unto, we should do it to others. And we've seen that now, West America is coming, it's paying for its sins, for everything that they committed against blacks. And this payback is coming down slowly but surely. And we've seen that now people have lost places where they called home and they don't know where to go. Even those who are sent in charity to support these people, we know that they don't even have a place to store those things. So let us know what you think about the whole mess which is happening in that Sundown town. Let us know your thoughts. Are these people paying for the sins which they committed against blacks, or do you think are concerning the same? Let us know in the comments down below. And if you have not subscribed to our channel, support us by subscribing right now.